next fly that I'd like to show you is what I called the leg Demerger. Again, we're going to be on a 2487 hook. We're going to have a little bit of a different trailing shuck on here. We're going to have a little sparkle or Zelon, which is topped by some mallard or wood duck. Our body is going to be out of a turkey biot. Our wing is out of CDC. And our legs are out of deer hair. Let me show you how to do this. First, we're going to grab our hook. Again, since it's a curved one, I like to start off with the eye down a little bit. And then we're going to attach our thread. And I'll start up in the thorax area. Then I'm ready to tie in that little sparkle portion of the trailing shuck, or the Zelon. So we'll grab some of Betts's ginger Zelon here, and we'll cut out a little bit of it, and we'll separate some of it out of there. We don't need that whole hunk of it. And we'll even up one end, and we'll just start tying it down from the thorax area and wrap back, just like so. And we just kind of want like an extended tag on here. Don't want it real long. And that ought to do it. And since we don't want that blunt cutoff area, what I like to do is just come in and kind of round it off a little bit. Taper it. And then we're going to put our topping on there, or for this one we'll use some wood duck. We'll make this a real pretty one. And let's pull off several fibers here and make sure the tips are all nice and even. And we'll lay it up here and make sure it's just a little bit long, about half again as long as that little tag of Zelon. Tie it down. All you need is a couple turns of thread, and don't cut that off quite yet. Now we're ready to tie in our biot. For this one we'll use a yellow one. We'll use some yellow turkey. Then we'll peel one of those off. And we're going to be wanting a little fuzzy rib to it. So when we tie it in tip first, we want that notch to be to our right. That way that smooth side will be up forward, and then we're going to have this fuzzy rib towards the back. Then we just bring our thread forward, up into the thorax, and then we trim off this excess. Now we're ready to attach our hackle pliers. And we'll just start wrapping that forward. So we have nice even segments with that fuzzy kind of ostrich looking ribbing here. Tie it down. Trim off our excess. And then since we kind of want this to be like PMD color a little bit, since we have a yellow base here, we want it to be a little more kind of tannish or even an olive color to it. So what I'll do is I'll take that Tan Magic marker, and I'll just come up here and kind of hit that ribbing. And that little fuzzy rib just soaks up the dye from your marker. That way you have kind of a tan and yellowish olive kind of a color to it. In other words, a good PMD color. Then we'll stand that hook up a little bit. And the next thing we're going to be tying in is some CDC. Since we want the wing to be a little bit lighter for the PMD color, what we're going to do is create our own kind of a light dun color of CDC. Now to do that, what we'll do is I'll select one natural dun CDC feather, and then what I'll do is take two white ones. What I'll do is I'll take a white CDC feather, then I'll take the natural dun, even up the tips, and then I'll put that second white one right on top. What I'm doing is sandwiching that natural dun color in between the two white ones. Now what I'll do is just bring it up here, take a kind of a loose wrap over the top of it, pull your CDC through until you get to the tip, tie it down, and kind of wrap back to where you tied in your biot. Put a nice thread base down here and cover up everything. Then bring your thread right into the middle of your thorax area here. Now we're ready to tie in some legs or our deer hair. Since this is a lighter colored fly, what we're going to be using is bleached deer hair. So we'll just set our hair stacker over here and we'll snip out a few little pieces of this bleached deer. If you have any broken tips, you can pull those out. And you want to clean out the under fur and just even up the tips a little bit, just like so. I like to check and see if I have any broken tips in here. It doesn't make that much difference to the fish. It just doesn't look that pretty in your fly box, having some broken off legs. I'll peel out some of those. Yeah, I think that's about it. Now we're going to measure the length of the tips here for our legs. And I want it to be just a little bit longer than the wing case here. So I'll measure right here with my thumbnail and have the tips about the length of the eye. That looks about right. So I'll hold the deer hair on the side away from me and kind of on the underside, kind of like what you would do for a throat hackle. Take a loose wrap and then a tighter one and just cinch down. Take a couple turns in the same spot, then advance your thread back a little bit and just tie it down. And then I come back up to where I started. And we'll just flip it upside down and cut off this excess deer hair. And that's the reason I like to keep a hold of it. This makes it a lot easier to trim it. And you just kind of separate the deer hair. So you have equal amount sticking out on the side away from you and towards you. And I'll tie some of that back. Now what you're going to do is just pull some deer hair back and then bring your thread forward. Pull some deer hair back and bring your thread forward. Just kind of weave your thread in and out of the deer hair until you get up towards the eye. Now what we're going to do is take our CDC, kind of stroke it all straight up and down so it's got about the same amount of tension on all the fibers. Pull it over, just like you would for a wing case. Now what you want to do is just push straight back. And as you do that, you can just see that CDC envelope out, making it look just like an emerging wing, which is what we want. Tie it down. Trim off our excess, just like so. Get it out of there. Now we'll build up a nice little thread head. And we're ready to whip finish it off. Take our thread off here and trim that off. And if you have kind of a scraggler of a CDC, just trim that and get it out of there. And there you have it, the leg demerger. It's basically the same as a CDC loop wing emerger, but it has a couple more bells and whistles to it. It has a little fancier trailing shuck and, of course, the deer hair legs. What I like to do is put a little bit of Dave's flex cement on them legs there. Just helps to reinforce them and gives them a little more character because it adds a little bit of a sheen to it. So we'll just put a little bit on them legs. And the reason I like to stiffen them up, especially on this fly, I like the deer hair to kind of point down a little bit. Because once that nymph gets up towards the surface of the water, when it starts to crawl out of the shuck, it's like pulling yourself up onto a ledge. The legs come out, and that's what them deer hair legs are doing. And do the underside a little bit. And there you have it. Now this type of emerger with the deer hair legs is great for like size 16 and bigger. Or if you have real nimble fingers, then you can do them a little bit smaller.